ఫ్రీ అయితే ఏం పెట్టాలి? ఫ్రీ వెబినార్ పెట్టాలా? ఇంకేమైనా పెట్టాలా?
Financials not included. Financials not included. Free advertisement no financials included. ఏదో ఒకటి పెట్టేసి
స్పీకర్ అవసరం లేదు. Hello. Hello, Mr. This is Sahitya. Sahitya from APS Clinic. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, Rajendra. How are you doing?
Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Sahitya.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Hi. So, shall we start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. So, guys, just give me a moment. I'll share the screen. Okay. So, guys, yesterday we have discussed. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, yesterday we discussed how Bitcoin network got started initially with one node, and then how slowly without any transactions, just because currency should be created before initiation of transactions, there are a couple of nodes which started maintaining the currency and creating the circulation. But still at that point of time, because the number of nodes are less and people didn't trust it as a currency, because it is not being backed by any central bank like RBI or any other bank. So people just thought, okay, it's a currency, digital currency, but still they didn't trust it, they didn't use it. But over a period of time, as more number of nodes started creating and as more people became aware of the technical capabilities of Bitcoin network, slowly people started accepting that currency for some items. Okay. See how value came to Bitcoin. Let me tell you. So there is one transaction which happened in 2012 where some miner offered some 1 million Bitcoins or so for getting a Domino's pizza. Some pizza, not Domino's, but some pizza. So that is the first real world transaction where a pizza store owner was a tech enthusiast and he thought, okay, anyways, pizza is pizza. Okay. So the miner explained how the currency works and how it has a future, and people started transacting for real world items. And as more people started using, and as currency got predominantly used by a lot of people, slowly the value of Bitcoin raised over a period of time. And again, the fundamental principle of economics applies here. If supply is limited and demand is more, the value will go up. If supply is high, demand is low, the value will go down. So that way, Bitcoin value went suddenly up in some cases, it went down, came up, down, and all. It was highly volatile. That is because of multiple reasons. Some people thought, some projections, Bitcoin will reach to 100K dollars. Okay, oh, let me buy. So some people with speculated mind, they bought it. But then suddenly, oh, Bitcoin is being banned by some countries. Oh, all people who don't know the technology side of it got feared. Suddenly the price went down. So, of course, the fluctuations happen. Even today, fluctuations happen with respect to value. But at the end of the day, don't assume, as engineers, you should be thoughtful. You should not speak like common people. Don't assume Bitcoin is a free money. No, it is, of course, created, comes into circulation in a mathematical way. You can't create new coins, or nodes can't create new coins as they want. Nothing like that. Protocol creates 50 or 25 or whatever reward per block edition. Okay, so that way the coins in the circulation are pretty much limited and restricted. So that is what made people, oh, okay, this is a digital currency whose circulation is only limited. Over a period of time, new coins won't be minted at all. So better, let's take at least 0.5 BTC or 0.1 BTC or whatever it is. So that is a mindset with which people started buying, and demand went up. See, 18.4 million Bitcoins. But how many crores of people are there? How many billions of people? 7 billion people. So 21 million coins possible. 7 billion people are there on earth. And Bitcoin is a global currency, and there is no conversion fee. And you can do transactions with less than 1% of transaction fee. What's not? People started buying it and used it for doing international transactions. And that is how blockchain has become a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Why is it called as a peer-to-peer electronic cash? Because there is no central authority which is issuing the currency. It is a peer-to-peer decentralized network which is creating the coins in a mathematical way. Now the second question is, everyone will have this second question. If a country is to print a note, they should hold gold equivalent to it. At least in India, if RBI wants to spend some money, print some new money, it will put equivalent reserves of gold and then they print. Because all currencies are either asset backed, intellectual property backed, or natural resource backed. Each country follows different system. US, it is intellectual property backed currency. US can print as many dollars as possible with their projected intellectual property valuation. So say for example, US has lots of patents, and a patent is nothing but a product idea which is hold for 20 years with them. So the potential for that patent to create income or value is calculated, and based on that, the country prints its currency. Let's take India. Every currency note printed by RBI, they buy some gold reserves, they maintain gold reserves, and then equivalent value of gold reserves they print. Let's take some African countries. They have diamond reserves. So based on the natural diamond reserves, they back the currency which they issue. So now what about Bitcoin? What is the asset which is backing the currency? This is again a very basic question everyone will have. What is that? The computing infrastructure. All the nodes in the network is a asset, right? Computers will not come as fruits to trees, right? You need to buy the nodes, you need to maintain them, you need to power them up, you need to connect it to internet. Everything is a cost. So the cost, the real world cost of Bitcoin is depends upon how much miners are spending to maintain the infrastructure, to build the infrastructure. And that is how slowly with time, the computing infrastructure and the time taken by all the nodes in the network to solve puzzles and to maintain the currency itself is the asset. Okay, so for the first time, a computation system has become an asset which is backing this digital currency or cryptocurrency. Okay. Yeah. So there are some questions coming up. Yeah. So see, like, I'm sorry, like, these courses recordings are not shared anywhere. Like, you need to make sure that you have internet and all. Okay. And once explain an online transaction in bank versus crypto transaction. Yeah, I'll come to that in coming slide. Okay. Now, so what does Bitcoin have? A decentralized peer-to-peer network driven by protocol, a public transaction ledger, the blockchain, a decentralized mathematical and deterministic currency issuance. See, this is something which you need to understand. In India, if you print a note, you will be jailed. Why? Only RBI has the right to issue a currency, print a currency. But in Bitcoin, the issuance is driven by protocol, and who issues the currency? Protocol. To whom? The node which wins that, which solves the puzzle in that time slot. So it is distributed mining. And is it undeterministic? No. Protocol definitely knows what is the amount of rewards or new coins should be issued at a given point of time. So everything is mathematically controlled. Nothing is uncertain. Fourth, a decentralized transaction verification system. Now you might get a doubt. Okay, if I go to a bank and do a transaction, there is a human who will just quickly look into my balance. He will enter something and he will validate, he will check the balance and all. But what about in Bitcoin? Of course, if you are doing it through net banking, then again it is automatic. But still, there is a script which is executed by every node in the network. So someone was asking, what is the difference between bank transaction and Bitcoin transaction? In a bank transaction, when you initiate a transaction from your net banking account, the request goes to one central server, which is maintained by SBI. And the bank server has a script which validates the transaction and confirms the transaction. But if you look at Bitcoin network, when you initiate a transaction, the transaction will get into the nearest node, and the node validates it, broadcasts the transaction to other nodes, and so on, till all the nodes in the network validates a transaction. That transaction will not become part of the block. So that is how a transaction happens on Bitcoin network. Now let's look at a practical example. Okay. Yeah, and one more point. Someone was asking yesterday, sir, is there any denomination for Bitcoin currency? Yes. If you have a rupee has 100 paisa. All right. What is 100 paisa? It is 10 to the power of -2 denomination. Only two locations, 01 till 99 paisa. But if you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin supports 10 to the power of -18 denomination. That means 0.0000 like that, 18 zeros. So you can send Bitcoins with such least denomination also. That is the one of the wonderful benefit of digital currency, right? You can send any micro transactions. So limited supply, decentralized, pseudo anonymity. No one knows who is the user. Yesterday, you could see the ledger, you could see the transactions, all account addresses, but you never know who is the person who is using that account. So pseudo anonymity is different. But if you do a bank transfer using your bank account number, I can find you out. So banking transactions are not anonymous. And this is the loophole, or this is the feature of Bitcoin which is being used by people in other ways. Okay, I hope now you understood why people are misusing Bitcoin. Okay, but still today there are some mechanisms to track it. Okay, that is why it is called as pseudo anonymous. It is not completely anonymous. So students, don't try to do something wrong. You can be caught. Definitely. Because there are many techniques which were created based on what kind of transactions and where real world transactions you are doing, you can be identified somehow, somewhere. Okay, so that is why Bitcoin addresses are pseudo anonymous. Fourth, immutability. Of course, no one can change the transaction data as it is available on multiple nodes. Divisibility. So this is how Bitcoin is different from fiat currencies. Next, how Bitcoin works. So if you look at surface level at a user, as a user doing a Bitcoin transaction or GPay transaction looks like same. How? You will open your Bitcoin wallet. You will be logging to your GPay wallet. You will be scanning a wallet's address, Bitcoin wallet address, QR code, and you will fill the amount. You will enter your private key and you will send it. On a GPay, you will open your wallet. You will scan the QR code of UPI. UPI's QR code, not Bitcoin wallet QR code. Actually, the use of QR codes for financial transactions is copied from Bitcoin, to be truthful. Okay, so this is like the Nokia Micromax paradigm. I'll give you example. Okay, most of the Indians know Nokia first. Okay, in Nokia phones, right side you will have red button, end call button, and left side you will have green button. But in Micromax phones, it is opposite. You will have green button right side, red button left side. But you know what? It is Micromax which created the first phone. It is not Nokia, to be truthful. But because we know that because we know Nokia first, we think Microsoft is opposite of Nokia. Similarly, it is Bitcoin which introduced this concept of QR code, scanning a QR code, wallet and all. But later, Paytm or GPay or PayPal, all these financial transaction companies started using QR code as a mechanism. Okay, so now the transaction happens. Okay. Okay, so is it possible to change the number of Bitcoins by changing protocol in future? No. And Ramakrishna Macha, forking is different. Okay, hard fork is completely different and you can't change the number of Bitcoins by forking. Okay, so I'll explain forking later. Okay, you can't change you can update the protocol, but if all the nodes in the network accept and update, only then it works. If half of the network don't want to update, then that becomes a fork, and for a fork network, the coins, the currency will be completely different. Okay, so don't mix forking with changing the protocol or updating the protocol. Okay, next. So fill the amount, sends it, then the wallet signs the transaction using Rob's private key. Right, I told you already, to do a transaction, private key is necessary. Then the transaction is propagated and validated by the network nodes. The miners include the transaction in the next block to be mined. Each node will try to solve the cryptographic hash puzzle. The node, the miner who solves the proof of work, propagates the new block to the network. Again, all nodes will verify the result and propagate the block. Only after all nodes in the network validate that block which has this particular transaction, LoRa sees the first confirmation, because Rob is sending to LoRa account. Okay. And the beauty of blockchain is every time a new block is added, the previous block and the transactions in previous block gets a additional confirmation. Okay, so every time a new block is added, the previous block gets a confirmation, and so on. All the blocks previously will get one confirmation extra. Okay, I'll explain you in why all new blocks or previous blocks get additional confirmation when I discuss about longest chain. Okay, yesterday I told you I'll discuss about longest chain, right? So I'll explain you that in coming slides. How much time does it take to validate the new transaction? Typically 10 minutes, but if the transactions are more than 4 MB size, then they need to wait for next block or that next block. But typically in half an hour to 40 minutes, a transaction should be over. What if node which contains transaction waits indefinitely for solving the puzzle? Not possible. Okay, within 10 minutes, if things are not over, it will be continuously. See, solving the puzzle is only one of the operation. Parallelly, new transactions getting, validating them, new blocks getting received, validating them. All these processes happen in parallel. Okay. What makes puzzle more difficult? Best example, what makes Sudoku puzzle more difficult? I'm sure most of you know Sudoku. If you give more blank fields, the puzzle becomes tough. If you give more numbers already filled, puzzle becomes easy. Similarly, in cryptographic hash puzzle, as nonce increases, puzzle difficulty increases. As nonce decreases, puzzle difficulty decreases. Okay, what is this nonce? The empty fields in the hexadecimal number. Okay, so I'll explain you. Focus on what I am discussing. I see most of the students, they are focusing on some other questions which are no way relevant to what I am discussing at present. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat because if some of you are asking a question which is relevant to this present slide, I want to answer. Okay. So keep focusing on the slides which I am discussing, and any question on future, I'll be ignoring them. Okay. So how does a typical wallet look like? So of course, there are different types of wallets. A wallet typically has a public address, private key, you will log in. Okay, and you will see what is the number of coins which are attached to your account. Okay, and then if you want to request or send a transaction, you can scan a QR code or you can enter a public address and you can do the transaction by entering your password. Okay, so if Rob send money to LoRa, then how the new block creation is included? Block is not included in the transaction. Transaction is included in the block. Okay. Next, transaction outputs and inputs. So some time back, I told you there is a shared global data which is used by nodes to do something. Okay. That is called as UTXO. So probably in my third session or where I told I will discuss about UTXO sometime later, right? So now time has come. So UTXO model is nothing but the fundamental building block of Bitcoin transaction is an unspent transaction output. What is UTXO? Unspent transaction output. If you remember, if a transaction is to be validated, one should check if that coins are unspent or not. So all the coins in the network are unspent by one account or other account, right? See, all the Bitcoins in the network, 18.4 million Bitcoins in the network are holded by some account or other. So that means with respect to a account, a coin is unspent, right? So UTXO has all the information about which coin is owned by which account. And the beauty is UTXO has all the coin information of coins which are in circulation. And UTXO are indivisible chunks of Bitcoin currency locked to a specific owner. Okay. In our banking system, everyone has an account and there will be a balance, credit, debit, all information will be stored. But in Bitcoin, that is not how the data is stored. It is stored on UTXO. And every coin or currency is locked to a specific owner, recorded on the blockchain, and recognized as currency units by entire network. And there is no accounts or balances in Bitcoin. There are only unspent transaction outputs scattered across in the blockchain. So sometime back for doing a transaction, you got 1 BTC, and sometime back you have 2 BTC, and sometime back you have 3 BTC, and so on. So so in the blockchain, on the ledger, on the distributed ledger, you will have your Bitcoins scattered on different times. Then I told you previously, on wallet, you can see your balance. So how is that possible? Bitcoin doesn't have the concept of balance, right? So the wallet has the ability to calculate users' balance by scanning the blockchain and aggregating all the UTXO belonging to that user. That means at a given point of time, the moment you open the wallet scans all the blockchain and it will add all the coins which are locked to your account, and it will aggregate and it will count it. So that is how the balance is maintained on blockchain. And UTXO consumed by a transaction are called as transaction inputs. Nothing but some coins you need to spend for a transaction, right? So input coins will be called from UTXO, which are called as transaction inputs. And how are transactions validated? Bitcoin clients, that means nodes, validate transactions by executing a script. And this script is written in forth-like scripting language. Forth-like scripting language is like a binary-based scripting language, like how you have Scala, some old programming languages, binary programming languages. Similarly, forth-like scripting is a secretive scripting language, which is most widely used in hacking, but still Bitcoins use that. And how does that happen? There are two scripts, locking script, unlocking script. when a transaction of Bitcoin is happening from one account to other account, with the sender's account, it should do unlocking script. With receiver account, it should run script locking account. So a coin is unlocked and locked to other account. That's simple. Okay. So that is how a locking script is nothing but an encumbrance placed on an output. Encumbrance means circle, boundary. A locking script binds the coin with a existing account, and it specifies the conditions that must be met to spend the output in the future. So usually the locking script has public key because a coin is binded to a specific public key. Next, unlocking script. Unlocking is nothing but spending. If you want to spend, what should the script have? Private key and digital signature. So based on your private key, a digital signature is there, and this digital signature will be used as an input to execute this script sig. Now say for example, you entered a wrong password or you entered a wrong private key, then the transaction will fail. Why? The unlocking script can't initiate the transaction because your private key is not matching. So that is how locking and unlocking script happens. Now let's look at public keys and private keys and Bitcoin address. Now someone was asking last time, what is public key and where is private key used in Bitcoin? Where is hashing used in Bitcoin? So this slide is for them. A Bitcoin wallet contains a collection of key pairs, which is nothing but private key and public key. A private key is a 26-bit number. And do you know what? I'll ask you a simple question. When you are creating an account, locking script or unlocking script will be executed by nodes, not by sender or receiver. Sender or receiver are just users. It is nodes which execute the transaction. Okay. So whatever inputs given by sender or receiver will be used for either locking or unlocking. Okay. If transactions are anonymous, then how does a UTXO know the user has made a transaction? Public address, public key, private key. The person name is not there, but public address is there, right? Praneeth, is it clear? See, anonymous means the person identity is hidden. Okay, not that there is no person at all. Okay. Say for example, you will be identified by your roll number in your classroom, right? So if someone who doesn't know your roll number can't identify you, who you are, which number yours is. So similarly, for every person, there will be a public address, private address, which hides the identity of the person who is using it. Okay. Now, yeah. So one question which I want to ask is, when you want to create an account, any account, which one will you create? You will create the username first or password first? Username or public address, email ID, right? But in Bitcoin, it happens the other way around. The moment you log in, okay, they will ask you a passphrase. Okay, passphrase is a number of around 26 words. Okay, I mean, one day I will show you how to create a wallet, how the public key looks like, private key looks like, how Bitcoin address looks like. Okay, but anyways, I'll explain you how this public key, private key is created here. So in blockchain, in Bitcoin or wallets, based on a passphrase which you give, it will generate private key first. And private key is a 256-bit number or 64 hexadecimal digits. So this is how a typical private key looks like. And don't worry, this is not my private key. So this is a typical private key. This is like your password. See how long the password is. Do you think someone can guess this? Or someone can crack this? If they were to crack this, they need to do 2 power 256 permutations and combinations. All zeros, all 256 zeros, all zeros 1, all 001, like that they need to do 2 power 200 and 2 power 256 permutations, which will take 10 years to 12 years to crack. So that powerful are the private keys which are used in blockchain. How can we remember? No remembering. You need to save it. So for saving also there are different methods. Okay, but there are some methods. The wallets today are giving a password option also. But if you forget the password, you can retrieve the password with private key. But if you lose private key, no one in the world can help you. Okay. Anyways, I'll discuss that later. If you forget your private key, if you lose your private key, that's it. Done. Abdul, if someone has stolen my password, could they do transaction with it? Of course, they can do wonderful transactions if you have balance in it. Definitely they can do, right? You need to protect your private key. Next, using private key, public key is generated in blockchain. Okay, elliptic curve multiplication. Okay, now this public key which is generated from the private key is hashed to create Bitcoin address. This is how public address, public key, private key, and Bitcoin addresses are generated in wallets. See, cryptography and hashing both are used to generate or create public, private, and Bitcoin addresses. Okay, so private key is a 256-bit random number, which will be generated based on the passphrase which you enter. And using this private key, public key is generated. And based on this public key, Bitcoin address is generated. And it is because 2 times a cryptography concept of encryption and decryption and hashing is used, no one can actually identify the private key for a given Bitcoin address. Very tough, very tough. 2-level security. Okay. What is G here? Then how digital signature is used? That is when you want to initiate a transaction. Based on your private key, a digital signature is issued to you by the wallet. What is G? G is a constant. K is the private key and G is a constant point. So if you want to understand more elliptic curve multiplication, go and do Google search. So it's a constant. So of course, Bitcoin is structured as a peer-to-peer network architecture on top of internet. Okay. So Bitcoin network is nothing but a collection of nodes having their own protocol, but all this network will be on top of internet. So TCP IP is not completely eliminated here in Bitcoin. Okay. So this is how a typical node has. It will have a wallet, it will have a miner. Okay. This is the miner module which will be solving the puzzle all the time. Wallet will maintain the currency of this particular node. Full blockchain. I told you every node in the network will maintain the blockchain, the distributed ledger, right? So that is here. And routing node. Every node in the network will act as a root, right? I told you if a node wants to transact something, it will receive it and it will broadcast. So it will act in different paths. So every node will act as a router. Okay, so that is how the Bitcoin network works. And of course, there are different types. This is called as reference client, full blockchain node, solo miner. Okay, lightweight wallets, pool protocol servers, mining nodes, lightweight Stratum wallet. So there are different ways in which you can maintain a node. But at the end of the day, the nodes either will be participating in the mining process or will be just acting as users to do or initiate transactions. So that is how these applications work. Okay. Now coming to this mining and consensus process, I explained you yesterday, mining is the process by which new Bitcoin is added. And mining also serves to secure the Bitcoin system against fraudulent transactions, because every transaction is validated and then added to the block before solving the puzzle. Okay, so double spending is avoided. Next, miners validate new transactions and record them on the global ledger, that is UTXO. A new block containing transactions that occurred since the last block is mined every 10 minutes. Okay, every 10 minutes there will be a new block which will be added on average. And Bitcoin's money supply is created through mining. Similar to how a central bank issues new money by printing new banknotes, Bitcoin's supply is controlled by the protocol. And I think this also I explained yesterday, Bitcoin money supply control. Every 10 minutes, new block. Every block mine has a Bitcoin reward. Reward will decrease approximately after 2,10,000 blocks. That is approximately 4 years. So the halving event, so this halving of reward is called as halving event. So in 2009, 50 became 25. Sorry, it was 50. And in 2012 November, it became half. In 2016, it became half. And in 2020, recently in August, again 12.5 became 6.25. And after 2140 year 2140, no new Bitcoins will be issued. So approximately the year 2140 when all Bitcoin. So after that, it is 0.0000, like that 20.9999 million will have been issued by that time. Okay. So the primary purpose of mining is not the reward or the generation of new coins. Mining is the main process of the decentralized clearinghouse. So validation of transactions is the main intent. But initially, If there should be some transactions, there should be some currency. That is why initial years of any blockchain will have empty blocks and new currency, new coins issued. Slowly, as people start transacting, then blocks get filled, and after some time, the primary intent of mining is to act as a clearance house and give a reward for node, reward to miner. Right? He should also, for maintaining the node, it's a cost for him also. He or she need to pay their current bills, internet bills, right? So that is why this reward concept came. So, okay, you take, no. Jashwant, what I said is the real world value of Bitcoin is usually decided by the infrastructure backing it. Okay. That is not only the parameter which decides the value of Bitcoin. Okay. Protocol will not stop whether people are using it or not. Every 10 minutes, it will create coins. That's it. It will just do it. Okay. What if node unable to solve the puzzle? It will wait for next chance. That's it. How much reward is given? I told you, right? Pranit, initially it is 50 per block. Then it halved in 2012, again halved in 2016, again halved in 2022. Today, 2020. Today, the block reward for each block addition is 6.25 BTC. Okay. After all the coins are mined, will the value of BTC be changed or not? It will change or it may not change. It depends on how many people are using it and how many people are transacting it. See, 10 rupees note 100 years back is 10 rupees only. Today also 10 rupees is 10 rupees only. But what can you buy with 10 rupees is different story. Why are you confusing, Mr. Balaji? Value of BTC is different. Okay. After 21 million, still the nodes are created. Yes, the transaction fee is enough, right? Other than block reward, the transaction fee of that particular transactions will be given to the miner only. Okay, so those little transaction fee will be hundreds or thousands of dollars by year 2140. Okay, so yes, even after that, people will maintain the nodes. How many transactions will there be in a block? It depends. 10, 20, 1000, 2000, 3000. So it changes. Why it changes? I'll tell you. In a real world bank, you can do one transaction in one money transfer, right? You can do one account transfer in one transaction. But in Bitcoin, you can do multiple transfers in one transaction. That means you can send 0.1 to one account, 0.3 to one account, 0.5 to one account in same transaction. So that is why the size of the transactions per block changes with time. Okay. Is it easy to find private key if we know public key and G? The elliptic curve the elliptic curve multiplication is again a very complex process, because for a given public key and G, there will be multiple possibilities. Okay. So no, you can't find the public key. You can't find the private key having public key and G. Okay. Because elliptic curve, for a elliptic curve, multiple points intersect. So a possible, with respect to number of possibilities, there are many possibilities. So that is how elliptic curve cryptography works. Okay. The reward for solving the puzzle is transaction fee after 2140. Yes. If transaction is not possible or cancelled due to issue, can the coin be used for transaction? Yes. That is there. If transaction doesn't happen, your balance doesn't change. You can initiate new transaction. What's there? That is straightforward. Okay, so any questions? Is there any retrieving mechanism if transaction fails? No, if transaction fails, okay, your account, I mean, the coins will not get unlocked from your account. UTXO will have those coins locked to your account only. Okay, so there is no need, I mean, there is no concept of retrieving. Sometimes money will be detected. No, so Monish, that is with our conventional banks, not with Bitcoin. If a person has expired without sharing private key, then those Bitcoins are lost forever. Yes. Yes, Abdul. And there are many people, initial days, they created a wallet and just for tech enthusiasm, they have a wallet, but they lost their private key. They saved somewhere and the system is lost. There are many accounts with Bitcoins which are lost. Okay, that is there. So how many transactions will be done per second? Typically 8 to 10. Bitcoin is little slow. Okay, like how we have initial internet, 516, what to say, 512 kbps, 256 kbps. Like that, Bitcoin is little slow, but it is the most robust and powerful currency. One stealth transaction journey in blockchain. Okay. Are the blockchains in our account are locked to one account even if the transaction is complete? Come on here, Nikita. If a transaction happens, coins will be unlocked from your account, and to whom you have sent, the coins will be locked to that account. Okay. If mining will be controlled by big miners, then how should it be decentralized? That's a valid question, but the point is, big miners is nothing but mining pools. So I will discuss about mining pools after discussing forking. Okay. What exactly boosts the chances of node solving? The puzzle first. Is it the computation capacity of the node? Yes. Yes. So solving the puzzle is nothing but there will be a random hexadecimal number will be given and few fields will be null factors and all other part will be given. So the node which tries to solve the puzzle will calculate the hash value of that particular block, and if that hash value is nearly matching with the puzzle given by protocol, then that block is deemed to solve the puzzle. Okay, so what happens when people don't spend the coins and they just keep them for themselves? Nothing will happen. It is just like, so there is no interest concept here. Okay, so only if the value of Bitcoin grows, there will be value, but there is no if you save money for 1 month, this is the interest. If you save for 6 months, this is the interest. That is only by banks, because banks uses your money to give loans, but in Bitcoin network there is no concept of loans. Abdul, I told you already, ask the questions which I discussed so far. Hash puzzle I didn't discuss yet. Okay. Yeah. So hold on for some time. How long one can hold a Bitcoin? Forever, right? As long as Bitcoin network is alive, you can hold Bitcoin. How the wallet shows our balance? I told you, right? So there will be multiple transactions by which you got Bitcoins, right, Rakesh? So what is your balance? Nothing but all inputs, outputs added together is balance, right, Rakesh? So all these transactions, inputs and outputs are on what? On UTXO. They are stored in UTXO. The wallet will, so every transaction has your public key, right? So based on your public key, the wallet will search in the UTXO and it will retrieve the data of all inputs, outputs. It will add them. It will calculate the balance. Okay. So when computation plays role in puzzle, how can we say it is randomness? So Amrita School Engineering, I don't know who is that. I will discuss about puzzle later. Ask any questions which are relevant for the slides which I discussed. Okay. Can a U2XO get tampered? Not possible. Okay. If private key is known to someone, still they can handle the account, then what is need of using digital signature? No, digital signature is just confirmation for the network that, see, at the time of creation of your account, you used private key. Okay. Now, if you want to initiate a transaction, you will give your digital signature. Say, for example, every bank transaction you want to do, why you are giving OTP? Anyways, that net banking is with you, right? Why OTP again and again? Right? Similarly, here, digital signature is a mechanism used by Bitcoin, but here in Bitcoin, there is no concept of OTP. If your private key is lost, it's lost. Digital signature is for the node to understand that user signed it. That's it. If we exchange from BTC to fiat currency, we have to provide KYC. Yes, for wallet to wallet transactions, there it is anonymous. But if you want to translate or what to say, convert money, yes, on exchange you need to give your KYC. That is why today Bitcoin has become pseudo anonymous, not anonymous directly. Okay. Locking script or unlocking script are by node, man. Okay. Sender account, unlocking happens. For receiver account, locking happens. Why are you getting confused? That's a simple thing. What will be the reward of node for adding block after 2140? It's a big zero. Okay, it's a zero. Okay, so for today we'll stop. Okay, because I want before jumping to forking, I think it will take some time. So if I break it in between, it won't be that easy to understand. If there is no reward, why does the node solve the puzzle? For the transaction fee, that's it. If once the BTC gets halved, it's only decimals. How will a node mine a single coin? Who said a single coin is to be mined? Nothing like that. If there is a gold mine, is it a necessity to mine 1 kg gold or 1 gram gold? Not required. Half gram also can be mined, right? Don't get confused with that. It's a number. See, what is a coin here in Bitcoin? It's just a number. It's a serial number, a coin ID. That's it. Can we have PPTs to revise today's sessions? Sorry, no. I told I'll share a reference doc, right? So once Bitcoin sessions are done, I will share a document with you, which you can use for your reference. Okay. Explain the transaction journey. I think I explained you already. This is the transaction journey. If you have any specific questions, you can ask. Every cryptocurrency is limited? No, don't come to such conclusions. There are few cryptocurrencies which are not limited, but still they are used. There is a logic for that. Okay. I'll discuss that when I discuss Ethereum. What are other cryptocurrencies? Go and log into coinmarketcap.com. In CoinMarketCap, there are 2,500 cryptocurrencies or tokens. Okay, crypto tokens available in the world. Okay, so Bitcoin is only one of them and first of them. Yes. Yes, Rohit. Sir, is it possible to store different Bitcoin like BT? Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, you can use same wallet to hold multiple cryptocurrencies. Yes, you can. So they are built over a period of time. So best cryptocurrency wallet is MyETH wallet, MEW, or MetaMask. So you can just go and explore MetaMask. Okay. How to create a new node? Very simple. For every, like how a server has a configuration, for Bitcoin node also there is a configuration. So you need to buy a node. There are some mining nodes with specific configuration. So buy them, connect it to internet, power it up, run. That's it. Okay. So do you have Bitcoin wallet? Why, Rohit? Do you want to send some Bitcoins to me? Yeah, I'll show you creation of a wallet in coming sessions. Okay. Any official website? Nothing like official website. See, Bitcoin is owned by general public. So that is why some people has created block explorer websites. Okay. So there is no official kind of thing. There is a official white paper of Bitcoin, which is published by Satoshi Nakamoto. So you can go and explore that white paper. You can search Bitcoin white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay. Okay, guys. So let's catch up tomorrow. Today I'll stop it here because can a wallet be issued for credentials? There are some attacks, dusting attack, and some new type of attacks. See, always remember, at a network level, nothing is impossible. Nothing can be modified or changed. But at a client application level, if you miss your private key or if there is some challenges in your data, there are some attacks which can happen, but not on the network, on the client side. How do blockchain.com get all the list of transactions? There is a API. So every blockchain network will have a API. And once you call that API, you can fetch the data. Is it clear, Rakesh? Okay, guys. So today we are closing little early because the next concept is little lengthy. I'll take it at a stretch. Okay. So bye. Bye, guys.
ఇప్పుడైపోయిందా